Hey guys, I'm back with another film study video. This time we're going to be looking at Wladimir Klitschko versus Chris Byrd. This is arguably one of Wladimir Klitschko's best fights. So with that said, on to the video. Okay, let's look at how Klitschko sets up his jab down to the body. First, you're going to see him feint the jab upstairs, basically uses his lead hand to occupy Chris Byrd. I talk about this all the time. Chris is basically focused on parrying a jab. He's expecting a jab upstairs. This exposes the right hand side of his body, and Chris is able to fire a quick, stiff jab down to the body, and defensively responsible. So he's able to, escape from after firing that jab. He's able to escape, protect himself, and get back outside into, neutral punching range. Now, some of you may have seen it, some of you may have missed it, but when Klitschko fires that jab down to the body, he actually establishes lead foot dominance over Chris Byrd. Basically, lead foot dominance is when orthodox versus a southpaw, you have your lead foot on the outside of the other guy's lead foot. So as you can clearly see from the image, Klitschko's lead foot's on the outside. What lead foot dominance essentially does is it prevents your opponent being able to fire any counter punches. All the best fighters in the world know this, and this is a basic tactic in boxing, where orthodox and southpaws fight. One of them has to establish lead foot dominance, and using this jab, Klitschko was actually very smart to be able to do this. Now, just looking at the body mechanics of Chris Byrd, basically his left hand is taken out of the picture. His right hand is also out of the picture. This is what lead foot dominance does. Chris Byrd simply will be unable to counter from this position. Just based on body mechanics and just looking at the picture, you can already see there's no way he's able to provide any counterpunch in this position. This is smart, intelligent boxing from Wladimir Klitschko. Okay, let's talk about one of the best jabs in boxing history, not just in the heavyweight division or, in boxing history. Wladimir Klitschko has one of the best jabs I've ever seen. One of the ways he sets up his jab is he uses his lead hand as a probing device. I keep talking about the lead hand as a probing device. He uses it to touch Chris Byrd's lead hand. Right, so Wladimir Klitschko likes to touch his opponent's lead hand, and he just kind of checks their lead hand with his lead hand. But the thing is, it's the tempo. Anybody can get in the ring and start checking their opponent's lead hand. But if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get, into trouble. What Klitschko does in the ring is he touches your lead hand with a certain tempo, so a certain pace to which he uses his lead hand, which is kind of like medium pace of the speed at which he fires his jab. The key thing to understand here is the switch between the tempo of a medium pace to fast pace. See, it's the switch of tempo, it's the change of speed. So what he does is, as he's touching your lead hand at a certain tempo, certain rhythm, certain pace, he gives you time to become used to that pace, right? It's like medium speed. And then he instantly switches tempo to a very fast-paced jab, and he pops you right down the middle. So he touches you at a certain pace, you get used to that, then when you least expect, he then switches the tempo, switches the pace, goes one gear up, and fires a jab very quickly right down the middle, and catches his opponents. Wladimir Klitschko doesn't sustain much damage in a fight because he's very good at controlling his opponent. You see how he fires this left hook, and as he shoots the left hook, he misses the left hook. Now, after he misses the left hook, what does he immediately do? You see him immediately grab and control Chris Byrd's head, right? See how he grabs and pulls Chris Byrd in while holding the phone at the same time with his right hand. And then he smothers Chris Byrd, pulls him in close to his chest and smothers him. And if you see how he locks Chris Byrd completely between his arms, between his chest, just holds him, and this prevents Chris Byrd being able to fire anything back. Okay, here's another example of Wladimir Klitschko smothering his opponent's offense. You see them both fencing with the jab, and then you see Chris Byrd shoot his jab. Wladimir Klitschko expertly takes a step back and pulls his head a little bit just away from the jab, and then immediately what do you see him do? You see him reach out, right? You see Wladimir Klitschko reach out, grab Chris Byrd, and immediately smothers his offense, pulls him in close to his chest, and the danger is completely gone. Okay, here we see Wladimir Klitschko again, being the smart, intelligent boxer that he is. When he misses this left hook, he instantly reaches for his opponent, pulls them in close, clinches, and smothers their offense. It doesn't allow Chris Byrd any space whatsoever to launch his offense or launch an attack. This is smart, intelligent boxing, regardless of what anyone says. Okay, now let's talk about the famous Wladimir Klitschko right cross. It's important to understand that Wladimir Klitschko and his brother Vitaly Klitschko fight behind the lead jab. Now, it's important to understand the way he sets up the right cross is basically off of the jab. If you recall earlier in the video, I talked about how Klitschko has a certain pace and a certain tempo in which he touches his opponent's lead glove. Then he immediately switches the speed and switches the tempo and switches the pace and fires the jab right down the middle. Well, if you look at this particular video, that's exactly what Klitschko does. And off of that jab, he then fires the right cross. Now, one thing to note about Klitschko's right cross is that he fires it with perfect technique. Notice the hip rotation. This is how he generates leverage and power on the right cross. And then also notice that because of his height, him and his brother Vitaly Klitschko actually punch down and through their opponents. This is how Klitschko generate that kind of power, and via the hip rotation as well. Beautiful boxing. Here we see Wladimir Klitschko shoot the right cross, and off of the right cross he immediately clinches his opponent, ties up Chris Byrd, and prevents any return fire. This is what champions do, because as I always say, champions really just don't take return fire. This is one thing champions don't do. As you can see, Floyd Mayweather does the exact same thing. Of course, the casuals say it's because he's a coward, but they won't call Wladimir Klitschko a coward because it just doesn't, fit with their agenda. So we know what it is. But here you see Klitschko being smart, very, very smart, intelligent boxing. Shoot the right cross, clinch. It's about hitting and not getting hit. Very few people talk about Wladimir Klitschko's defensive ability. Wladimir Klitschko actually has a very good boxing defense, very, very good actually. Basically, he understands that two things in boxing will protect you. Firstly, control your opponent. Secondly, create distance between yourself and your opponent. Just very simple. Just the fundamentals in boxing. You don't have to stand there and catch shots. That's wrong. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. So here in this video, you're going to see Klitschko use head control. Like the genius that he is, he uses head control, and then he just creates distance using his footwork between his opponent. You're going to see him avoid a jab. You're going to see him evade a left cross. And he does it all in the same motion, holding the phone with his right hand, using his left hand to control his opponent's head, and then he just uses his footwork to create distance between himself and his opponent. This is brilliant boxing. And finally, we conclude the video with the first knockdown of the night. There's just so much to study about Wladimir Klitschko. I'm going to have to make another video. But so I'm just going to play the video of the first knockdown of the night, and then we're going to talk about how he accomplished this knockdown. Okay, now as far as I'm concerned, Wladimir Klitschko should be serving life in prison for that 1-2 punch combination. Like, I'm not even trying to make fun of, what happened in the ring, because obviously a knockdown is never a good thing for a fighter, so Chris Byrd, I'm not trying to make fun of him, but that is a vicious knockdown. I mean, that is one of the best 1-2 combinations I've ever seen. All right, let's break it down. First and foremost, it's actually very simple. He feints with his lead hand. Wladimir Klitschko, that is, he feints with that lead hand. And unfortunately, Chris Byrd because he couldn't deal with that lead hand the whole night. So he ends up reaching for that lead hand. And as he's retracting his arm, so as Chris Byrd is actually retracting his arm after he reaches for that lead hand, when Wladimir Klitschko feints and he kind of reaches for the lead hand, when he's retracting his arm, that's when Klitschko now fires his jab right down the middle. So I keep telling you guys, it's about the change of pace. Klitschko is absolutely superb at changing pace with his lead hand and his jab. So he's able to touch and then quickly just switch up the tempo, change pace, fires the jab down the middle, and then comes right back with the right cross. And that's all she wrote. And immediately leaves the scene of the crime. And Chris Byrd has been put down, and he never recovers from that. So Thanks for watching, guys. And Wladimir Klitschko, what an excellent boxer. Technique, speed, agility, defense. There's a reason why he's been in control. Him and his brother have been in control of the heavyweight division for so many years now. So I'm gonna have to do another video on Wladimir Klitschko. Thanks for watching, guys, and on to the next one.
The end comes at 41 seconds of round number 7. The winner by knockout victory, and now the two-time heavyweight champion of the world, the Steel Hammer, Dr. Wladimir Klitschko.
Got a million when the border goes. I don't date, I rather paper choke. In that European round with a burn. If a nigga run up on me, I'm a burner.